Good afternoon and welcome to another vlog. I am in Aruba on vacation. Gonna be here for a few days and just thought it important to say this because I was just thinking about just the notion of what it means to get away. And I thought it was important to say this because some of you will likely have planned vacations. Some of you will have thought about just getting away from all of the stress of work or whatever have you, or just the busyness of everyday life. And I think so many of us literally plan our income, like sort of our expendable income. What exactly is the word? I never remember this word, but the type of income where our disposable income, right? Interesting that we call it disposable, right? We plan our disposable income around things like vacations, travel, the type of expenditures that we don't normally use, and which is fair because that's what we do with the extra income that we have when we want to splurge on ourselves, treat ourselves, right? And so being in beautiful Aruba here, one would think, yes, this is what you aim for, right? This is what you came to travel for. But if you think about it, a lot of what we're doing when it comes to travel, it's still quite limited, and it's not the exact thing we want when it comes to, in terms of, in some ways, escape, getting away. There's still a lot of constraints. And so today I want to talk about being in a place where vacation or travel is not just an escape, it's a means of discovering yourself and learning and growing in a way that is not so tightly wound up in the way that it usually is. Here's what I mean. So many of us, when we go on vacation, we are literally trying to escape our everyday mundane situations when it comes to everyday life, work, kids, family. Ooh, flies, my goodness. And so flies. To the degree that we have to literally schedule travel time to ensure that we just somehow decompress. And I think I'm in this place now where I am not okay anymore with just going on a trip where the trip is literally escape from reality. Because when we think about the everyday, oh my God, like this fly, man. The everyday stuff that we're trying to get away from, vacations don't solve that problem. They just give us an escape hatch, a pressure valve by which we just decompress a little bit. Now, to be clear, that's okay. And all of us need that at a certain point. But at what point do we do these as sort of a mitigative strategy around living our lives versus it really being a strategic means of living life better? So being here in Aruba, I was thinking a lot about this and thinking about a lot of the constraints about it. Number one, just the cost, right? The cost of having to get to a place like this. Now, my wife is particularly good about points, and she planned this like about 13 months in advance. But part of me doesn't look at that as a sort of win using points. It seems to be more of a, oh my gosh, she had to rig so many things in her favor, plan so far out ahead, 13 months in advance, just so that she could get this thing on points. And to be clear, some of you may be thinking, that's just good strategy. Sure, but the amount of strategy that's required to do this is just insane. The fact that you have to think about when is the next time the kids are going to be off. When do the kids' holidays line up? Does the price, do the flights line up? If you don't have the right kind of flights, then reserving a great hotel 13 months in advance may produce squadouche on you when you have to travel during a period when oil prices are going through the roof because some idiot president decided to start attacking another country and effectively cause a very important travel route, or shipping route that is, to get like blocked up. So that sort of constraint makes any sort of plans very constrained by world events and the ability for one to maintain it. Not to mention, think again of illness, right? What if one of our kids got like really sick? Will we take them on a plane? Wouldn't we have to forfeit it? Think about another trip where my wife had planned an outing with her mother-in-law and she couldn't go because she unfortunately got herself injured. What are you going to do, right? I think a lot of how we think of vacations is that we literally have to fit them into such small periods of time, because the rest of our time, the other 48 to 50 weeks of the year by which we are actually operating, we have to devote that to work, and we have to devote that to something where we literally cannot sacrifice that, or we don't have the flexibility to do that. And so where I think this really screws us all up is that we have the kind of schedules that we literally have to fit our leisure time, our travel time, into predefined blocks of schedule of days, and we're doing this along with everybody else, to the degree that it makes it really challenging to be really, so to speak, disconnected, off the grid, doing our own thing. And so for those of you who are taking some of this to heart, I want you to think about, what does it mean for us to take vacations these days? I honestly see the whole sort of travel porn, like the sort of buzz around like getting away, as sort of a trap for us, because mentally it makes us think, oh, we're actually really doing something with those days. No, we're actually forced to take vacation those days, because when else are you going to do it? You really can't do it when, if you have kids particularly, like their schooling is on a very set schedule, and you can't basically walk away from it, because then they miss school, they'll miss like crucial things there. And honestly, another video, I'm going to start talking a lot about kind of how I think schooling kind of really limits kids from learning, and the way that schooling sometimes like boxes our kids into a sort of a mindset that doesn't really get them like really to be free thinkers. But in any event, the point is, we have such a structured society such that the only time when you can really do like any sort of leisure stuff is already constrained by the rest of kind of how our modern society works. I guess this is important to say, because I think for so many of us, we think about getting away when we're really not getting away. Even the way we vacation, it's so structured, and there's so much like we have to go do this and we have to go do that. Well, why do we have to do that? Because we can't do it any other time. You want to go visit some temple? Well, God forbid that the temple is closed on this day and that's the only time you're in town. So you have to think so far in advance. Now again, I'm not saying that planning is a bad thing. You should plan, but to the degree that that amount of planning is so necessary because of all these other constraints that are going on, it doesn't make things seem like leisure. It just feels like they're just things that we're doing just to fit them into the time for which we've been allotted, that the things that the time that we get to off, the part-time, the PTO that we get to have, that we're privileged to have. Sometimes it just feels like you're just trying to squeeze things in. And that's the issue there. I would argue that for so many of us, we need to think more about what's it going to take to really disconnect, to really be off the grid in a manner that helps us just live healthier lives. And I think some start of it is to actually think about, when we're going on vacation, like, when are we doing it? Like, what's the purpose of it? I think for so many of us, and this is just something that's always irked me about when I travel, I'm not prepared when I go to a foreign country. I literally, especially when it's a little less touristy, like how am I immersing myself in the culture? How am I trying to really commune with the people with whom I am visiting? I thought about this as I was really proud of myself one of these years when we went to Italy. I went through the entire Duolingo course on Italian. It took me 4 months to do it, and to be fair, I was no expert at it. But I could literally look at signs and be able to identify things in a way that I just couldn't before when I was going to some other country. I've tried to replicate that before, but because of kids and because of other commitments, I haven't been able to do that as fully. And I've really thought, if I'm going to really make the most of my opportunity to go to these places, the way I'm really going to really honor travel is to really honor the fact that I'm going to a different place, a different way of thinking, a different way of eating, a different way of being in the world, instead of just bringing my American self to a country that, to a certain degree, may not do things the way I do, isn't going to move as fast as I do. And we in America, we're just so good at coming into a country and just steamrolling everybody with the way we do things, and we have to have our food and we have to have things done our way, when in reality, we should really do a lot more to respect the places that we come to and try to commune with those people. These are people who have real lives and real jobs and real things that they're working on. Even, to be clear, even as they work within some of these American institutions and supranational corporations in which they work. Think about hotels in particular, right? But even with these people, I'm trying to connect with them in a way that is endemic to who they are, and not just kind of being the sort of super tourist that is so stereotypical of how Americans travel in the world. We travel to a different country, but then we're expecting all the same creature comforts that when we're at home. I didn't think of the way I take all this gadgetry, and we go here and we go, we need to take the selfie stick. We need to take all of our connectors. We need to take our computers. We need to take all the gadgets and gadgets that the kids need for this and that and whatnot. And in some ways, it feels like, wait a second. So are we really going to visit another country on their terms, or are we just bringing the United States, sort of trying to, in a lot of ways, it's just glamping, except that we're just saying that we're going to visit another country, but really we're not. We're actually just going to another country and just trying to have, in some ways, a very American experience in another country while trying to suck out some of the way the other country kind of does things, just to have a different experience. But in reality, it's still very much curated to our sort of sense of what vacation needs to be. Some of the things I think for some of us, we need to think, maybe for some of us, we need to disconnect for a month and go somewhere and just bring maybe minimal tech. But actually, for me, I would love to go to Chiang Mai in Thailand, go back home to where my mom lived in southern Thailand, and just be there. Be there where it's hot. Be there where the technology is actually not so great. And learn to live like that. Maybe it's to go into a quiet area of Portugal, like some suburb of Porto, and just try to just live on an espresso in the morning and grab a pastelis de nata and just have it, and just be okay with the silence and be okay with the calm. I think that's what's really missing for us when we're traveling. We're not really immersing ourselves in the cultures in which we're going to. Anyway, just want to kind of say my piece there and really acknowledge that when it comes to traveling, we Americans have a lot to learn about what it really means to disconnect and to really be immersed in the cultures that we're in, so that we're not just kind of, number one, being sort of stuffed into the schedule that so much of corporate America life kind of wants to be in. And because of that, it ends up really short-circuiting what a real travel experience needs to look like. And I think this is really important because so much of how we understand the world is so discolored by our American lens, and there are bajillion philosophical and spiritual and theological and political and economic reasons why that is true. But I think suffice it to say, our inability to kind of take those glasses off, as it were, and have them on so much so that we literally cannot absorb what's right in front of us when we go into a different country because we have these lenses on. Anyway, that's it for now. Again, if you like what you've seen, please subscribe. Again, I'm on vacation, but trying to be a little bit more observant, even as I sit in this hotel. I'm trying to be a little more observant and a little immersive among these people who I'm visiting, because they're not just a travel destination. They are a culture and a people whom I think we all should at least try to integrate with to some degree as we visit them. We're in their home. Cheers, we'll see you later.